Greetings friends and welcome. Today I am super excited. Chess.com released their new holiday bots, and this December I have been counting down the days for these Christmas bots to come back in. And in today's video, the big takeaway is trading down to make it a more manageable game. So I played the white pieces and did get a victory after 54 moves. So I'm going to go through the game and show you some good concepts, and I'm going to try to design this particular one to trading down to make it a more manageable game. So computer said I played at 95% rate, and Dash played at an 84% rate, and so let's get to it. I started with classic E4, and I normally try to I usually develop my knights before my bishops, usually, just because they can jump over other pieces. They're easy to get out there and start controlling the center. Just remember, control the center and develop your pieces and get them to work together. One thing I noticed with these bots, I did the 1200 one before this with Santa, and I made a handful of mistakes in that game, but Santa was not using his pieces together, and that was his downfall, despite my terrible mistakes. That you can check that out. But okay, so again, it's just a battle of controlling the center, and so let's keep this going. I want to get to my main point of this video. Okay, so I retreat my knight back, and the bishop's under attack, and pick up that pawn, and I want to, okay, so there, I studied this over for about 30 seconds. I was like, is that really a free pawn? So when you see something like this, be careful. I always assume it's a trap, and it took me years to finally figure that out. So I'll give you a hint. If you see something free like that, maybe it is free, and in this case it was, but I finally learned my lesson. Always assume it's a trap. Okay, that's just a good rule of thumb. Okay, and I always try to, speaking of good rules of thumb, is I always try to castle before move 10. I think this is move 12, but that's okay. There were some other things going on, so that's all right. So bring that knight back to safety. And yeah, I am free to attack the queen if I want, because my knight owns this square. But and that is something that I do sometimes. But if it doesn't go anywhere, then why move a piece? But it would have got it out in development. That's one thing, this is move 13, and my bishop is still on this back rank. So right now I'm looking to get this bishop in the game. That's kind of the big thing. I think of it sometimes as if you're managing a restaurant and you got, nobody making French fries, but there's an employee that's just standing in back. Hey, get him out there making French fries or something. So it's kind of a silly analogy, but you get the idea. Get your pieces to work. That's the big thing, and working together. Okay. So here, I wanted to show this. So my biggest problem, go back a little bit, is I got to get this developed. I'd like to do something with my queen at this point, because we're in the middle game. So, okay. So I get this developed to a good square where I own a lot of squares. Okay. Then I'm kind of thinking, okay, what to do? Don't really know what to do. Get the queen out. That's always good. It's not great development, but it is. And you got your rooks lined up, and now your queen's in the game finally. So good stuff. And look at this. These guys are lined up. Maybe I can attack this finally. This bishop is well placed. It's controlling the center. It does have its own pawn here, but that's okay. This bishop is very well placed. Mine is okay placed. So let's see if I can make this exchange, because I would love to exchange that out. There we go. So I got rid of my weaker bishop for my opponent's stronger bishop, and I got my queen in a pretty good spot here. Okay. And, here I'm looking to do something like this. There will be an escape route for the king still, but I'm, you know, my opponent should be a little concerned at this point because I have a major piece and a minor piece on Dash's side of the board. So that's something I was going for here. And this here, I did miss something, and I want to show you this, but every once in a while, before I show you that to you though, every once in a while you got to stop and look at this and say, okay, let's look at the board. I want to make that next move there. Now that it's my turn again, let's look at this. So I have 1, 2, 3 major pieces. My opponent has 3 major pieces, and I have 1 minor, and I'm up several pawn. So what I want to do is I want to trade this game down to simplify it, make it more manageable. And so that's what I'm shooting for. And if you're at the other end of that spectrum, you should not want to trade off pieces. Dash's hope is to promote a pawn, something like this. I do have a bit of a weakness that I could potentially fall for a smother mate once these rooks get in the game. So those are things to watch out for, but Dash should not want to trade down, and I do want to trade down. Okay, so let's keep this going. Now, here's something that I missed that I wanted to show you. Is I backed out my bishop and said, oh, I'll keep my bishop. And if I would look this a little further, if I would have took, the king cannot retake. So, because I own this with the queen. I own this, sorry. So, if Dash would have took with the rook, let me get those arrows off there, sorry about that. Okay, so now, I could have brought this rook into the game. Then I could have popped up here for check. That could have been, there could have been some great stuff happening. I could have mated this game pretty quickly. And so, this is why you should always analyze your games. Is I didn't see that in the game, and I wish I would have slowed down a little bit and saw that potential, but I didn't. So yeah, that would have been great. Could have had my rook. Whenever there's an open file or even a semi-open file, try to get your rook to where it's going to own it. Right now my opponent Dash owns this E file. I wish I did. That's the difference. The computer says you should have went for it to where you own this file. You could have brought check up here, and so it would have been over really quick. So, but that's not what happened. So let's keep looking. I can tell you I'm gonna do Mrs. Claus, or what's her name, Holly, next, who's rated 2000, and I'm gonna have to tighten up my game, because if you saw my other videos, I just show them as they are. I made a handful of mistakes. I expose them and talk about them. And I'm starting to tighten up my game. I've been doing puzzles for a while, and now I'm back to these games, and I'm going to have to tighten it up a little bit before I face Holly, but I will do that.
I know what I gotta do. I gotta clean up my act. No more joking around all the time. No more slacking off at work. And most important, no more booze. I know I can do it.
Post that as well. So, okay. Now, Dash wants to do the exchange, and this is where, now it's kind of, Dash is kind of forced to. And so I'll gladly do the exchange because I'm up a bishop. I'm up 1 piece and several pawn. And okay, so now I finally get smart. I want to own this E file, and I protect that pawn. It's under attack. I don't want my opponent to get the rooks down here. Okay, so but my rook, this one is poorly placed. So let's see if we can get that changed. So I'm going to try to get them lined up, and at the same time I get to threaten this pawn that's in my territory. I do not like that. So okay, huzzah, look at that. I finally got my rooks lined up. Remember, get your pieces work together. If you've seen my other video, that was the biggest takeaway in my previous video, where I talk about getting those pieces lined up, working together. Okay, so now I'm threatening, take. Now I have a rook on the 7th. And one of the things, I'm up a bishop. This game is, I'm simplifying this game, and I'm going to do something pretty crazy here in just a minute. While this king is pinned, I'm going to clean up some of these pawns because I see the end game is really going to come down to me with my pawns. So I'm going to just take out a few more threats before I do what I'm about to do, and this is what I wanted to show you. Get rid of that potential threat. Okay, now with this king being pinned, this is what may seem a little, like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? So I'm going for check. Then take. So this is the big takeaway, is I'm still simplifying this game. Even though I sacrificed 2 pieces for 1. Now, it really comes down to, I'm playing very conservative by doing that. I only have 1 threat, this guy right here. And with all these pawns, I'm pretty sure I can take him out and get a queen. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Before this, this could be a problem. I don't know. So I'm playing conservative and taking it down. And so even though I was up material, but now I'm just up so much pawn that I want to show you something about end games too. I'm going to go through this a little quick. Okay. I get a little sloppy. I mean, I could have come in here and start saving some of those pawns, but that's okay. I just really need a queen to show you what I want to show you. Okay, so here, I come here, cutting off the king, instead of going here, and then the king hops around up here and does whatever, and you're messing around. I create a box for my opponent. And I'm going to keep making this box smaller and smaller until it's finally mate. And so that's what I'm up to. Okay, and now make sure you don't fall into a stalemate. Make sure your opponent always has a square to go into. Okay, but I got all this cut off and this cut off. Just make sure your opponent doesn't run out of squares. Dash is trying for a stalemate right now. Okay, so now I've really got him in trouble. I own all these, but I have to make sure he has squares to move around in, or it's going to be a stalemate. And that's what he's going for. The king has to assist. 1 piece by itself. Even the queen can't do a whole lot by herself. So now here we go. I still have squares available for my opponent to go into, and now it's mate. So the biggest takeaway is, well, I guess 2 takeaways. Use your pieces together. You have to. At 1600, your opponent definitely uses the pieces together. 1200, Santa. That was Santa's big downfall. He did not use his pieces together, as you can see from my previous video. But the biggest takeaway from this is, once I was up 1 piece, I just whittled it down and kept making it a simpler game. Once I saw that in the mid game, I was up a piece. Yeah, just keep whittling it down. And maybe there's better moves, whatever. I just will it down to a nice end game, nice comfortable end game. So I hope that helps. These bots are a lot of fun. You can go chess.com and check them out for yourself. And next I'll be facing Mrs. Claus. Holly, I think it is actually. Thanks for watching and have a great day.